So I attempted a writing exercise where I took one premise and wrote 3 different short stories of different lengths based off of that one premise. A 10-word version, a 100-word version, and finally a 1,000-word version. Here's how it went. Starting with the premise, I wanted to go with something really straightforward and simple. A young boy finds a box in the attic that changes everything he thought he knew about his parents. I think we've all read or watched scenes that play out like this before, but I wanted to do something really simple for my first stab at this exercise. One thing to note is that none of these stories are masterpieces, none of them are excellent, but it's meant to be an exercise that stretches what I'm able to convey in a very short amount of time. So first off, the 10-word version. This proved way harder than I expected because the premise itself is 18 words. So trimming 8 words away to still convey some kind of idea and hopefully something semi-compelling is very tricky, but here's what I came up with. First off, there's the ideas that just don't work. I found 5 bodies in the attic. They all looked like me. This is 12 words, and it doesn't even mention the box, so it's out immediately. I wonder if my parents know about the box in the attic. This one is also 12 words, it's too vague. Moving on. I found a box in the attic. It was bleeding. So this one doesn't mention the parents, and I'm thinking that might be an element that I'll have to leave implied. But it's slightly more interesting, a little bit more mysterious, but not quite there yet. I found a box in the attic. It was breathing. This one is getting into a little bit weirder territory. Is it the box itself that's breathing? Is there something inside the box that's making it move like it's breathing? I don't know, but I thought of it, I wrote it down. We'll see what else we got. I found a box in the attic filled with baby teeth. This is unnecessary, but it's, I'm trying to just brainstorm, I'm trying to throw things at the wall, and I'm throwing baby teeth at the wall, so. But I found a box in the attic filled with teeth. That could work. It's 10 words, it's a little creepy, it's a little bit more specific than just a breathing box or a bleeding box. Let's go with that. Going on to story number 2, this is 100 words. So interestingly, by the time I'd finished the 10-word version, I had a clearer idea of what I wanted the 100-word version to be. And having more flexibility, even though it's still very small, actually made the writing process simpler. So here's what I came up with. I found a box in the attic full of teeth. I want to ask my parents about the box, but I can never muster the courage. I want to ask them why all of the teeth are sparkling white, why they're all shaped exactly the same, why they all smell faintly of bleach. I want to ask them why the box is tucked in the back corner of the attic, where there's nothing but rat traps and mothballs. I want to ask my parents about the box of teeth, but every time they smile at me, I change my mind. So that came in at exactly 100 words. It's no masterpiece, it's nothing spectacular, but I feel like it takes that original 10-word idea, expands upon it just enough to give you a little bit more of a clear emotion vibe, hopefully something a little bit creepy. Lastly, we have the 1,000-word version. So with 1,000 words, we can do a lot more than we can with 10 or 100, but I found that I still had to boil down all the different ideas that I had into essentially 1 or 2 scenes that I felt like conveyed a particular emotion or idea. So here's what I came up with for the 1,000-word version. This thing is kind of goofy and stupid, but it was a lot of fun. There are 3 reasons why I'm starting to think my mom is the tooth fairy. The first reason is that I stayed up until 3 a.m. the last time I lost a tooth, and not once did I hear the flutter of any fairy wings. I did, however, catch my mom crawling across the floor toward my bed in a way that reminded me of a Komodo dragon. I giggled when I saw her, and she crawled away back into the shadows. The second reason I think my mom might be the tooth fairy is because of what I found in the attic. I'm not supposed to go in the attic, so you need to promise to keep this a secret. Last week, Mom had to run an errand, so she sat me down on the couch and turned on the TV. I watched for a few minutes, but my eyes kept jumping to the attic's pull string that hung in the hallway. I didn't think a quick look would hurt. Besides, my mom went into the attic at least once every evening, and she always seemed happier when she came back down. I dragged a chair under the attic door, climbed on top, and tugged on the pull string until the attic door swung open with a groan so loud that I was worried my mom would hear it from miles away. I climbed up the ladder step by step, feeling the heat of the attic press down on me. I forgot to bring a flashlight, but even in the dark, I could see row after row of evenly spaced cardboard boxes. Each box came up to my waist, and near the back of the attic, the boxes were stacked 3 or 4 high. With slow steps, I walked down a row of boxes. There was no dust on any of them, no bent corners, no cobwebs, but there was a smell. Not the musty, stale smell of old things, but a sharp, sour smell that mixed with the warm attic air in a way that reminded me of a person's breath. At the start of one of the rows was an open box. I stood in front of it and looked inside. It was too dark to make out what was in the box, so I slipped my hand inside, expecting to feel picture frames or stuffed animals or folded clothes. Teeth. From the top of the box to the bottom, there were only teeth. Thousands of them. Part of me wanted to pull my hand back out immediately, but I didn't. I let my fingers glide against all different shapes and textures of teeth. There were pointed canines, molars, incisors, chipped teeth, baby teeth. Near the bottom, the teeth felt dry and brittle, but closer to the top, the teeth had a sticky newness to them. The smell was almost overpowering, but I couldn't step away. I opened one box after another, each time expecting to find something different, but there were only ever teeth. And with every box, I reached my hand as far down as I could, feeling the nibbles of countless teeth run up and down my arm. I heard the thunk of a car door shutting from outside. How long had it been? A few minutes? An hour? I leapt up and ran back down the row of boxes toward the light coming from the hallway. I tripped on a wooden support beam and toppled into a row of boxes. My face landed in an open box, and I felt sharp teeth scratch against my cheek and forehead. For a moment, I could smell the mouths of dozens of strangers. I picked myself up, brushed away the teeth that stuck to my face, and all but fell down the attic ladder and into the hallway. There was the click of the lock on the front door turning. I lifted the attic ladder and closed the door as quickly and quietly as I could. I wiped the sweat off my face, and when I looked at my hand, I saw blood. Mom stood at the end of the hallway and looked at me. I felt blood trickle down my forehead, down the side of my nose, and onto the seat of the chair, which I hadn't had time to move. Her eyes traveled down my face to the floor where teeth had spilled from the toppled boxes. I opened my mouth to say something, but the words wouldn't come. My mother looked back up at me and smiled. She set down her bags of groceries and walked toward me, slowly. Her smile was big, bright, and toothy. She gave me a hug, cleaned me up, and led me to my room to take a rest. When I came back out a few hours later, the teeth on the floor were gone, and a shiny new padlock was bolted to the attic door. For the rest of the day, she said nothing of the incident. She only looked at me and smiled. And that's the third reason I'm starting to think my mom is the tooth fairy. Her smile. No one has a smile like hers. Everyone I've ever met, from the oldest grown-up to the smallest toddler, has had no more than a handful of teeth. Supposedly, there was a time when nearly everyone had a full set of teeth, but I find that hard to believe. But my mother has a full set of perfectly white, perfectly straight, perfectly sharp teeth. I only have one baby tooth left, and none of my adult teeth have come in yet. But one day, I hope to have a smile like my mother's. So that's the 1,000-word version. Again, it's nothing serious. It's not going to win any awards. And I even bent the rules a little bit where I had just the mom instead of both parents. But that's the idea that I had, and so I ran with it. So even though this definitely is not my best work, this was a very fun exercise, and I feel like it stretched my writing skills in a way that they haven't been stretched before. And I think there's some value in taking one idea and playing around with it in different formats to see what sticks. Like personally, even though the 1,000-word version took a lot more time, I think the 100-word version is a little bit creepier. I think it works a little bit better. It goes to show that less really can be more. Just because you have an idea you really like, it doesn't necessarily need to be stretched into a full novel or a full screenplay. It could be boiled down into its best form in 10 words, 100 words, 1,000 words. So let me know what you think. If you want, you can try your hand at the same premise in the comments with a 10-word version, 100-word version, or I think you could fit a 1,000-word version into one comment, but let me know. Thanks for watching.